Hi guys, it's Jessie here. I am back with another video, and today's video is going to be another tag video. This tag is another one that I found just Googling YouTube tag video questions, and it was on a forum with a whole bunch of other tag videos questions, and it's just called the 5-question tag. But the questions are very like in-depth parenting questions. So I think I'm just going to call this the parenting tag or something along those lines. Like I said, listed here, it's just the 5 questions tag. But like I said, they're all very kind of thought-provoking parenting questions. Some of these might be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to answer them. So there's 5 questions, all having to do with parenting, and the first one is, do you think that parents nowadays are more tolerant than in the recent past? Why? I think it's pretty obvious that kids nowadays get away with a heck of a lot more than people my age did, and certainly people older than I did. I think that times have changed a lot, and parents tend to be much easier on their children than they were in the recent past. Even like the way that I parent my kids compared to the way that my parents parented me, I think I follow a lot of the same things that they did, but I think they get away with a lot more than I do. I think that they have it a lot easier than I ever did in terms of like chores and expectations and school and life in general. I think it's just easier for them than it ever was for me. Maybe that's just like a subjective thing, but I do think that kids definitely have it easier. Parents are much more tolerant, much more patient, and just busier in general. I think, not to say that my parents weren't super busy, they were crazy busy, but I think there's a lot of hustle and bustle, and sometimes things kind of tend to slip, and maybe we aren't paying as close attention to our children as parents previously were. So yeah, I think kids do have it easier, and parents are more tolerant, yes. Number 2, kids today are given cell phones, unrestricted access to the internet, diverse video game consoles, etc. At what age do you think is pertinent to present a child to this technological aspect of modern human life? Is there a different time for each tech? Should they be educated thoroughly before giving them the tech and let them find out by themselves? Why? So that was like a very wordy question, but I think basically they're asking just, you know, technology. Are you for it or are you against it? And what kind of parameters do you set up for your children? So I was of the school for a very long time that my children would not have cell phones until they were 16 and driving, that they weren't going to be super involved with technology. They weren't going to be the kids that constantly had their nose in an iPhone or constantly watching TV. And I think that in this day and age, it's just impossible for that to be the case. So, like I said no cell phones until 16 and driving. Both of my children have cell phones now. Everyone has cell phones. I think it's just kind of impossible to get away from. It's very important to me that I am able to contact my children at all times. They do have limits to what they are allowed to see on their phones and have on their phones. You know, they're not allowed to use their phones after a certain hour of the day. They take their phones to school, but they're set to, you know, silent, so they have them if there's an emergency or if they need to get in contact with someone, but they're not like using them in class, texting and things. I check their phones very regularly. I'm one of those parents that believes, yes, you deserve your privacy, but I'm going to make sure that you're safe. And so I do check their phones, I check their computers, I know what they're doing online. They're not allowed to play online video games, like they're not allowed to chat with other people, none of that, like Xbox Live, anything like that. I like to really limit their interaction with strangers for sure. I read their emails, I read their text messages. I'm that mom because I want to make sure they're okay. They have very strict rules about what they are and are not allowed to look at, and they know that if they break those rules, they definitely are going to lose their devices. The main reason that I like them having cell phones is so that I know where they are. I do have an app on their phone that tracks their location so that I know where they are at all times and I know they're safe. And maybe that makes me a helicopter parent, and maybe some people wouldn't agree with that, but that is what we've decided for our kids, and it's been working for us so far. They definitely watch more TV than I think that they should. They play more video games than I think they should, but like I said, in this day and age, it's how it is. I am very aware of what they do online, what they do on their TVs, what they're watching. I monitor everything, but that's where the majority of people socialize nowadays. I am on my computer constantly, so I can't very well tell them, you know, you're not allowed to spend this amount of time on the computer when I'm doing it constantly. I'm interacting with you guys on YouTube, so it's just different than when we were kids. When I was a kid, you went outside to play. If you wanted to talk to someone, you went to their house. But obviously times have changed, and it is what it is. I think that each child is different. I gave Robbie a cell phone, and he was much older than when I finally let Austin have his, because Austin has always been more responsible, more careful with his things. I knew that he could handle the responsibility sooner, and Robbie needed a little bit more time. So I think it just depends on who you are, who your kids are. I think the most important thing is that you're just aware and that you're constantly communicating with your children and you know what's going on in their lives. Okay, that was a long one. Next up, what do you think should be the proper punishment for an angered child who tries to hit a parent? So like I said, these are some tough questions. I've never been in that situation. My oldest son is 15 and he is at an age where he's got attitude and he does have anger sometimes, and he expresses it in a lot of different ways that I necessarily wouldn't, you know, it's not always the best way to handle his anger, but he's never raised a hand to me. I don't think that he ever would. I think that he has too much respect for me. But I think that every child is different and people handle their anger differently. And if a child ever got so angry that they hit their parent, that they need to be, you know, that anger needs to be redirected. They need to be told that that's not acceptable behavior and find other outlets for that anger. And there's a lot of things that kids can do. I've spoken with my oldest son about how he handles his anger and talked about redirecting it into exercise or, you know, talk it out. There's lots of different things. You can speak to a counselor. My son does see a counselor to help him with his ADHD, and that is an outlet for him that he can speak with that person or his doctor, or, you know, he can just remove himself from a situation if he's angry, but that physical violence is never the answer. So there's that. Question number 4. The child does not want to cooperate with the teacher and does not want to make his work in the classroom. What do you do? This is a problem that I have firsthand experience with. My oldest son, again, he has a lot of struggles sometimes with focus because of his ADHD. He's not always the most, I don't know, I'm stumbling with words here because I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to say, but he's not necessarily the hardest worker. He has a hard time focusing in the classroom, so he brings home a lot of his work and does it as homework because I can help focus him. That's just what works for us. We have an agreement with the school. He has a 504 plan in place, and that's kind of what we've come up with. He does the work in class when he can, and if he's having a hard time focusing and he needs to, and you know, he's struggling, he can bring home his work. The only rule that I have for him is that he not disturb the other people in class. So if he can't focus or he's having a hard time getting his work done, he can do something else. He spends a lot of time drawing and things when he's listening in class because that helps him to focus. All of his issues stem from his ADHD and his trouble staying on track and staying focused. So maybe it's different than if a child is just like actively being a brat and doesn't want to listen. I don't really know how I would go about doing that because that is not something that I have any experience with. But I think it's just a matter of doing the best you can with your circumstances, being in contact with the school, having a close relationship with teachers and administrators at the school, and talking with your kid. I think that's probably the most important thing, knowing what's going on in school, what child is going through, that sort of thing. And number 5, would you be the kind of parent that protect the child from getting dirty, playing with animals, and playing wrestling with friends, or would you be the type of parent that doesn't shy the kid away from the experience? Okay, so I'm one of these parents that is gung-ho, like, enjoy the experience, get out there, get your hands dirty. I think that that's really important as just, you know, day-to-day life for a child. I also think it's really important that children build their immune systems, so getting out there, being around other kids, getting dirty, all of that helps strengthen that, and my kids are really healthy, so I guess, you know, maybe it works, maybe I just got lucky, but I'm just a firm believer in that. And I never want my kids to shy away from an experience ever. So that is that. I'm going to list the questions down below, some very thought-provoking parenting questions, I think. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me some comments down below. Tell me what you thought of my answers and how you would choose to answer those questions. If you film this tag, leave me a comment down below and let me know so that I can go and watch your video. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!